going on, everybody? So I want to get a quick update on some of the more recent movies and TV shows and some other miscellaneous movie news that I have right here. Shouldn't be that long of a video, but I guess I'll go kind of like the way I did in the last one, where I'll start off with my best thing watched leading into the worst. Doesn't mean it's the worst thing, and I'm not going to recommend it. It's just the last of this area right here. But to start off with, what I thought was the best thing I saw recently was The Wild Robot, animated film from like DreamWorks and Universal and all that stuff. So basically the synopsis is, after a shipwreck, an intelligent robot is stranded on an uninhabited island. To survive the harsh surroundings, she bonds with the native animals and cares for an orphaned baby goose. The film was nominated for 3 Oscars, it says in the synopsis. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Obviously a very highly regarded film, and probably will win the best animated film at the Oscars in the next couple weeks, in my opinion. But overall, I was still very interested in this movie, just never had time to get around to go watch it in theaters and stuff. But once it finally became available on Peacock to watch, my family and I sat down and finally watched it and thoroughly enjoyed it. There are definitely some times throughout the movie where you kind of feel the love. It's kind of like a Pixar movie. They kind of like tear at your heartstrings and feelings and stuff. They never really fully cried, but maybe got a little bit teary-eyed. I got a synopsis of what being emotional and like actually tearing up is probably a difference or something like that, according to somebody I heard from recently. But yeah, I guess I didn't fully cry, but there was a little bit of like, oh yeah, that's cute, that's sweet. A little bit of teary eyes here and there. But overall, yeah, I thought it looked really good. They kind of mixed like a lot of like the digital and kind of like what it used to look like, that animation from a long time ago, like the early Disney films. And I guess it definitely kind of more reminded me of like my other type of favorite movies that did that in an animated style, like The Iron Giant came out in '99, even Titan AE, that came out pretty soon after that, but they kind of mix like digital and like the old school animation. But this is more of like a blend of the two, so it's not like straight up like that full-on cartoon animation, but it's still a pretty interesting look in my opinion. But yeah, definitely recommend it. It was a very good story. Definitely think it will win the Oscar, like I said, for best animated film. So yeah, if you're definitely looking for something that'll pull your heartstrings, I definitely recommend it, as I said. How many more times can I say? Definitely. And the next movie or TV show on my list that I thought was second best was Captain America: Brave New World. Not just because it's like a Marvel film. I don't think it's one of their top Marvel films, even like mid-tier level. It's pretty mid, as the kids say. It was kind of exciting here and there, but overall, I guess it could have been better, but I did still kind of enjoy it. Synopsis is pretty much, in Captain America: Brave New World, Sam Wilson, who is now Captain America, he was the Falcon, now officially Captain America, is thrust into an international crisis when the newly elected President Thaddeus Ross calls upon him to investigate a global plot, forcing Sam to confront his values and navigate a complex political landscape while uncovering the true mastermind behind the turmoil. So yeah, you kind of get like the same hits and stuff and paces like Captain America: Winter Soldier, which was the second one that Chris Evans did as Steve Rogers, where like some type of action scene kind of happens in the beginning, and then it leads to certain things of him having a new partner, like how Steve Rogers had Sam as the Falcon, kind of making him into an Avenger or whatever, and then they find some underground base that nobody knows about that's still controlled by the government, and then somebody is hiding in there that is dealt from the past. Like in Winter Soldier, it was like some guy with Hydra who worked with that Red Skull or whatever back in the olden times when Rogers was around, but then this time it's kind of like somebody connected in with that Incredible Hulk movie with Edward Norton. It's basically the second Marvel film, but obviously nobody thinks of Edward Norton as the Hulk. It's always just Mark Ruffalo, because that's who replaced him right afterwards. But yeah, overall, it's a pretty decent action movie. If it was not part of Marvel or anything like that connected to comic books wise, I would still say it's a pretty okay action movie. Probably would watch it again as part of like watching like a marathon of Marvel movies, but not like something I'm gonna rush towards once it comes out on like Disney Plus or whatever. But overall, I wasn't like as upset with the full-on story and the semi-villain and what ends up happening throughout. I just kind of got upset at, if you're watching the trailers, there is a Red Hulk. I mean, it's pretty obvious who they say turns into the Red Hulk in the trailers, even though I thought that was kind of like the whole entire build-up in the main part of Act 3 too. So it's like, well, we already know all this stuff and who is the person that's going to be coming, so it's not really a surprise or anything like that. It probably would have worked better in the film in a total if we didn't know that secret about a main character, but it's like, it kind of ruins your main climax act in Act 3, so I don't know why they did that. Maybe they were a bit desperate, and I know this movie had a bunch of like rewrites and reshoots, probably because of the writer strikes too, but I think they were doing that even before all that happened too. But overall, like I said, still an okay enough movie if you're still interested in Marvel movies and all that stuff, to go check it out. It's not really part of the whole big plan or part of like that whole anthology series of like the main part of the main storyline or whatever they call it now, the multiverse, but I guess it's still an okay entry in my opinion. And another movie I was able to watch on Apple TV Plus, now that I have that subscription, or at least still going through the free trial right now, is Ghosted. It came out a couple of years ago, starring Ana de Armas and Chris Evans, and pretty much the synopsis is Cole falls head over heels for enigmatic Sadie, but then makes the shocking discovery that she's a secret agent. Before they can decide on a second date, Cole and Sadie are swept away on an international adventure to save the world. So yeah, it's pretty much clear cut right there what ends up happening in the movie. I guess I was kind of surprised too. Like, I kind of liked it a bit more than I guess what most critics would, because everybody kind of dogged this movie and trashed it pretty badly, and a lot of people continue to say like, oh yeah, Chris Evans, if he's not in Marvel, then he's not a great actor. But if you look at this movie, Gray Man, which I thought he did pretty good playing the villain there, Red One was still an okay performance by him. I don't think it was as good of a movie. I would say even Ghosted is better than Red One that came out last year during the holidays, in my opinion. But either way, yeah, it's pretty much like he goes on one date, he falls in love, but then she ends up leaving away, and then he realizes that she has something of his, and he's like not trying to like be too head over heels over her, but he's constantly texting her and trying to call her, getting missed calls. So then he tracks whatever he had left with her that's in London, so he goes off to London to go try to find her, and then of course he gets end up swept away, and where a bunch of bad guys are almost basically trying to kill him because they think he is her, which is like some big time secret agent that a lot of people are, I guess, are trying to kill. But of course now she has to like basically protect him and all this stuff for the rest of the movie. And they have some pretty good cameos. I won't say who they are, but they are literally in there for like a minute or less, which is pretty funny the way it ends up happening. But I thought those were some pretty cool cameos throughout the movie, in my opinion. And a lot of times too, a lot of the action scenes were pretty good setups and stuff. And yeah, you can tell at times, obviously it's not doable in real life, but to be honest, it did look pretty good in my opinion. Yeah, you could tell digitally, like some of it wasn't 100% great, but I thought Apple TV did a pretty good job with one of their first main movies a couple years ago, putting that much money into it, and it still looked pretty good, like I said, in my opinion. So yeah, if you're looking into like an action-y type of rom-comish, kind of reminds me of that This Means War movie with Reese Witherspoon, Tom Hardy, and Chris Pine. That's a pretty good rom-com action movie that I like a lot. But yeah, I would say give this a shot. Can never go wrong with Ana de Armas or Chris Evans, in my opinion. So yeah, either way, check it out. And for the next best thing I was able to watch is actually a TV show. It is the second season of Yellowjackets. I was able to catch up on that pretty much a couple days after the season 3 premiered last Friday, where they dropped like 2 episodes. But luckily it's going to be a weekly thing, so I'll be able to catch up for the 3rd season coming up. And yeah, I guess I said that the 1st season was just okay. I was just gonna kind of force myself to watch the 2nd season because I know my girlfriend likes it a bit more, but also just to kind of see if there's any resolution. But with most of these TV shows, they always try to get it to last longer, and then kind of like only 5 or 10% of the story ends up happening. It's always going backwards and forwards and all that stuff. But basically, there might be a spoiler in this synopsis for season 2, what may have happened towards the end of season 1. So if you don't want to hear it, just skip ahead after you see the synopsis up there. But if you thought Yellowjackets couldn't get any darker, the series' 2nd season said, "Hold my glass of human blood." The latest chapter of Showtime's hit show took us deeper into the surviving teen soccer players' unraveling psyches, both in their brutal 1996 wilderness nightmare and their equally messy present-day lives. Season 2 was a lot, and yes, it basically was, just because you're kind of introduced to a lot of people who are older now, because you kind of only assumed maybe like 3 or like 4 of the girls only survived in the first season, because that's all they showed of older ladies. But then now all of a sudden 2 of them show up that were still part of the crew back then during the crash, and they obviously had bigger storylines once the first season unraveled, and pretty much during the second season too, which was just okay. So I was like, but when that second season did start, I was like, wait, those are some girls or chicks that I've never seen, that I never saw in the first season, that were supposedly in the crash, but all of a sudden now they're having speaking parts and stuff. But I don't even remember them seeing them in the background in the first season. But I guess there's kind of like a running joke that they are continuing to add like different survivors and stuff during the seasons to see if anybody's even catching on that there probably wasn't that many people. But it also kind of lends to the story that yes, there was most likely cannibalism during this event, because that's how these women and crew were able to survive or as long as they did, because it's basically been about a year. Because yes, going into a little bit more spoilers, but one was pregnant right before they left, and she basically had the child and stuff during the second season, pretty much midway through, and all that stuff. So that's at least 7 to 9 months, right? So they still are lost in the wilderness until then. We still don't know exactly where they were, because one of the characters did take off the tracker and all that stuff, and they kind of lost them at a certain point over the US or maybe Canada, you never know. But yeah, it kind of gets a little bit more into like they end up having to go after 2 people when it comes to being cannibals and trying to survive and stuff, because there's like this big old winter storm and they're not able to basically get food because all the animals are gone too, so they have to resort to that. But it wasn't as surprising, just because I think there was a pretty recent story that was pretty similar where some soccer team ended up crashing, some Spanish soccer team, and then they're playing and they had to end up eating each other. That happened in real life pretty recently, within the past decade or so, and I think they even made a movie about that came out pretty recently. But it's basically a similar type of thing, just done differently. And I guess the only bright spot is like it's kind of like a timeline of the 90s, so at times they do play some pretty good, awesome music that I do like, but at times too it's also just like pretty crazy and random. And like I said, it doesn't really full on continue the story, in my opinion, as you wish it would. I kind of hope that's what happens with season 3, but I've not seen any of these actresses really pop off and start being put in other bigger type tentpole movies, so maybe they won't get too busy and get taken away from the show and still have to be doing it for the next couple of seasons, which kind of does suck. But I have not heard anything at all as of yet if there's going to be another season, so I'm kind of hoping it kind of rounds it out in the 3rd season. But it just seems like we're missing so much stuff, and then you kind of thought they were just missing for a year, and then all of a sudden find out it's probably been more than a year already. But hoping to get some more closure, some more answers soon once I start watching the next season. But some of the cameos too are kind of cool, who keep popping up and who are now main characters too, of people you knew from back then. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I guess give it a watch if you're still interested after watching the first season, and I'll hopefully update you at some point in the next couple months about season 3. And the last item on this list, not that it's a horrible movie. Yes, it did not reach my standards of what the first 2 of this trilogy were, but I still enjoyed it for the most part. Watching it in theaters the other day, but still was a little bit disappointed in my opinion. But it is Paddington in Peru, the 3rd of the series. Kind of just wanted to complete the series, like I say with a lot of these things. I don't know if they're still going to do another thing. I have not heard anything about that, but obviously too, half my heritage is Peruvian too, so wanted to kind of support any type of movie or anything like that, big tentpole movie supporting Peru, which is pretty awesome. So basically the synopsis is this: when Paddington discovers his beloved aunt has gone missing from the home of retired bears, he and the Brown family head to the jungles of Peru to find her. Determined to solve the mystery, they soon stumble across a legendary treasure as they make their way through the rainforests of the Amazon. And yeah, that's basically what it is. It happens pretty quickly. He gets word that his aunt is missing and all this stuff after he had just basically communicate with her, and recently saw her in London, I'm assuming, and then he goes down there to go basically find her with the Brown family that took him in London. And yeah, the shenanigans end up happening, but they basically, it kind of becomes a mystery where it's like, oh, certain clues are being left behind, and he just keeps assuming that his aunt did that to kind of help him find her eventually. But yeah, you kind of find out that there are a couple people that are kind of two-timing. It's pretty obvious if you saw the trailers who it could be, but I won't say that for anybody who is interested in watching it. But overall, yes, I know they brought in a new actress for the mother, who was like Sally Hawkins, Sally Hawkins, who is like in Blue Jasmine and The Shape of Water too, another Oscar-nominated film, Oscar winner actually. But she was the mother in the first two, and she wasn't there, so it kind of felt her missing there because she brought a lot of heart and just nice and sweetness to the series. But then I believe the director too, I want to say his name is Paul King, I could be wrong, but I believe instead of doing this, he went on to go do the new Wonka film with Timothée Chalamet, however you say it. But overall, I thought that movie was really good too. And like when I was actually watching the second one right before, the day before we went to go watch this one, you saw like a bunch of how the inspiration from the director and Wonka-ish style, like all very vibrant colors and big set pieces and all this stuff, even kind of a musical-ish element to the first couple of Paddingtons. So I kind of felt that style missing. They kind of did some stuff here and there to show off some like artistic stuff, but it was kind of just done again. They did it twice. They didn't really push themselves. But overall, thought the acting was still pretty good. It's a really good kids movie if you basically see it that way. They're still really good overall family type of films that you can still enjoy with everybody in the family, but this one is a step down in my opinion. So if there is more, that'll be cool. You kind of leave it open-ended, but if not, then I thought it was still an okay enough conclusion to the trilogy. So either way, if you're interested, saw the first couple, then I would recommend you go see this also. And Ron Perlman, who played Hellboy for the first two films of that franchise, he recently did say that he's only willing to return to play Hellboy for Guillermo del Toro as director returning. He said he had the opportunity to play the character for other people, and he passed. So I'm glad to hear that. I know they try to do another version of Hellboy with David Harbour. Never saw it. Didn't hear a lot of good stuff. Didn't make a bunch of money either, but it's tough. Del Toro's talked about needing a certain amount of money to make that third film in that series, in their series, because it's going to cost a lot for what it happens in their storyline. I just don't think they're ever going to get that. So it sucks, but I'm glad he turned down stuff to be able to still keep hope that maybe him and Del Toro can make the third one. You never know. And then Walter Goggins recently spoke about teasing Fallout Season 2. He says he thought Season 1 was extraordinary. This blows it out of the water. So yeah, Fallout was a series that I was like up and down with. There were times where I really enjoyed it. Other times where it's like almost too weird. And I don't think it was the fact that I never played the games or understood the mythology of what had happened in those games. It's just at times it was just presented weirdly. But overall, I did kind of enjoy it and still went through it all. So still looking forward to this second season. Hopefully it is great. And then I think AMC is in the news, or at least somebody that says that Connecticut lawmaker has introduced a bill that would require movie theaters to disclose what time the trailer starts and what time the movie actually starts too, which is pretty good because we're actually running late to, I think it was Captain America the other week, and I was like, well, I guess the only thing that I have going for me is, yeah, we're technically 5 minutes past when it says it's going to start, but I'm pretty sure they're going to show like 15 to 25 minutes of commercials and trailers because it's a big movie that they expect to make a lot of money off of, so that they're going to have a bunch of all those stuff right before it. And it was true. We got in a little bit late during the trailers, and we still probably saw like 3 or 4 trailers and a couple of commercials too, so we had plenty of time. But sometimes too, you think you're running late, and then if it's not like as popular of a movie, they won't show that many trailers or commercials and all that stuff, no advertising, and then you might be running in late to that film. So yeah, hopefully they get it done. I think somebody in India recently took it to court and won like what is equivalent to like 700 something bucks here, which is at least a start. So hopefully a lot of these movie theater companies end up looking at that and at least just show us the times. We're still gonna go. It doesn't matter. You can still show those dumb ads and stuff, but just let us know when we can come when the real movie starts. So yes, thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.